especially some content for the other institutions. Group of institutions, we welcome you all for the very recent Chance in International Studies. We plan to organize many technical-oriented programs like this in future, so stay tuned with us. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Nagabu, Chief Technical Officer, Wipro Technology Chennai, to speak about this session and the speaker. So, we hand over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. So my name is Narendra Babu from Wipro Technology Chennai. So Wipro Technology is founded by like-minded IT professionals with 15 plus years of experience in IT industry and over 200 years of working experience across domains and IT technologies all over the world. So our passion is to empower and enlighten IT professionals, academicians, research scholars to focused online and classroom programs for highly skilled and industry-leading technology specialists. So our key portfolios are like software development, IT consulting, professional and corporate reskilling, and technical interviews. So being a technology-driven organization, our focus for academicians is to empower the students through career upskill programs, workshops, seminars, webinars, meetups, hackathon, and product development and entrepreneurship. Okay, so I would like to thank everyone for joining this webinar on IoT. So wish you all good luck. Thank you. Over to you, Kiran.
Thanks, Naren, and thank you, Premolata ma'am, for giving us an opportunity. Good morning, everyone. I am Kiran. So I have close to 15 years of experience in various technologies. So I started my career as an embedded engineer and eventually working in IoT technology for last 4 to 5 years. So I have worked with the various customers across the world in various domains. And I have customers experience interaction with the US, Europe, as well as Asia Pacific regions. So in short, this is a summary of my experience and my profile. So before getting into the session, just small couple of requests. Request everyone to be on mute. And second is kindly join only via audio so that the bandwidth will be used efficiently so that others can hear properly. So Naren, one small check for your side. So kindly request to unmute everyone and disable video for everyone. And also as I will be in the presentation mode, request if you get any questions in the chat, kindly alert me.
Sure, okay.
Yeah. So let me share my screen. So probably one or two people can confirm on the chat if you are able to see the screen. Naren, just confirm if you are able to see the screen.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So before getting into the session, let me give a brief about how I am going to segregate this session. So we will take it into 3 or 4 parts. So basically, I'll start with the brief introduction of why IoT is required and what is the rise of IoT in last few years. Then we will see what is IoT is all about and what are all the key features and benefits of IoT. Eventually, any technology. Naren, I see a lot of scribble marks on the screen. Can you disable? Yeah. Thank you. So probably any technology which is having a lot of features and benefits will comes with definite challenges. So we will quickly touch base on those challenges. Then I'll go to some applications which are there in the industry currently. Probably I'll touch base 3 or 4 applications. And also I will give a overview about what are all the different applications we have worked as part of our industry solutions. Then I'll also like to touch base on briefly on the different skill set and role matrix of IoT industry, which will be interesting for many of you so that you can actually educate your students to go through certain skill sets so that it will help them to get a better job. And also I have a couple of small quiz sessions. So one is basically kind of a COVID awareness. We are actually in COVID situation remotely working for various organizations. So I just want to have an interactive COVID quiz. And in the end, I have a simple quiz for IoT. And we can have a 5 minutes quiz, 5 minutes Q&A session after 30 minutes. And in the end also, we can have a 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A session. If if the time required for additional 10-15 minutes, we can extend the session. So there is absolutely no worry about it. Okay, let's get started. So this is briefly the agenda which I was talking about. So I am just going to skip this and straight away get into the next slide. So this is a very simple slide, right? So what is the need of IoT, or I would put it this way, what is the rise of IoT? So before IoT, probably 10-15 years back, right? So we have individual systems where it does not have any feasibility to connect to the other systems. Though we have LAN facilities we had, but it would not be able to communicate with each other. Basically, the systems were standalone systems, and there is no communication available between the systems, and there is no computing, heavy computing power were not there. So what is the evolution of IoT, if you ask me? If you see on the right side, all the systems are interconnected. Probably it is depicted as in computers, but basically any system which is currently a smart system is enabled with a small computing engine, right? So we can, instead of considering it as a computer, we can consider it as a computing engine, right? So any computing engine or any computing device nowadays which comes into the IoT world is smart devices. All the smart devices is capable of communicating with each other. So communicating is not just sending the information. So it's not a one-way communication, right? So all the IoT devices is basically a two-way communication. That's where you achieve this. Achieve the IoT. Yeah. So that's where we can achieve this IoT communication. So basically, in a nutshell, IoT is not a technology, right? It's an ecosystem. It has multiple technologies involved in it. One is cloud computing, big data, artificial intelligence, cognitive computing. So there are so many technologies within the IoT which makes this ecosystem very robust, and you can achieve a lot of beneficial factors out of it, right? So what are all the factors which led to the rise of IoT? Very first and very important aspect is cloud computing. So earlier, when you want to build any system, you have to first think about the infrastructure, right? So when you want to build a simple data center, you need to think about the procurement of highly sophisticated and expensive hardware, and also you need to have a skilled labor who can maintain that hardware. Not only the hardware, right? You need to maintain about the security. Nowadays, the world is very vulnerable. Anybody can hack any system. So you need to think about security, sophisticated systems, and you need to maintain all those things. It's not a simple job. But now, if you have a simple credit card, and if you have an account to log in into any of the cloud service providers, like leading cloud service providers like Azure, Amazon, or Google Cloud platforms, you can have virtual machines, or you can have a data center ready up and running in 30 minutes. So that's the power of cloud computing. So without any need of physical infrastructure, you can have your data center ready. So that is one. And second one is the evolution in wireless technology. So definitely, I think many of the people who have joined here are probably 80s kids or 70s kids or 80s kids or 90s kids. Probably 2000 kids doesn't know about the evolution in the wireless technology. We definitely know. We grown up in a situation where we had landline phones, then slowly moved to phones where it was phones. It is not even a smartphone, right? Then we moved to a mobile phone, then it is a smartphone, right? So the technology evolution in wireless field is actually an amazing thing which enabled this IoT industry a lot. And next advancement is protocol developments. So earlier, if you see, like even if you want to develop a simple application, the application footprint was so heavy. When you want to put it to any of the devices, you need to think about the computing chipset and your memory. So many things. So you cannot have, you don't have in protocols which is having a very small footprint. Nowadays, even the communication protocols like MQTT, HTTPS and all is available in very small footprint, like about in KBs, you can have that protocols. So that is another big advantage which led to rise of this IoT, right? And next is the processing speed. Like I don't need to tell about the processing speed, right? Even in remote villages in India, nowadays you can get 100 Mbps of internet speed. When I was doing my engineering or diploma in early 2000s, So when I go to internet center and type google.com, I can go have coffee and even actually finish my breakfast and come back. So it will take about 10 to 15 minutes of time for even loading the page. So, but nowadays with the processing speed and the power of the wireless communication, everything is very fast and we can actually acquire the data in just real time. I would not say real time, it's in just real time. You would be able to acquire the data from all the devices. And lightweight OSs. So many of the devices, IoT devices or boards, comes with lightweight OS like your real-time operating systems, right? So we can tailor-made the OS for requirements, and then you can have a OS which can fit into any type of boards nowadays. And of course, a lot of money has been spent on research and development for IoT. So these are all the things which I see as led a way for rise of IoT in the last couple of decades. So I'm moving on to the next slide. So what is IoT basically, right? So we talk about so many things. Naren, could you please mute everyone, Naren? Yeah, thank you. So what is IoT basically? So yeah, so IoT is, as I said, it is it's not a technology, it's a platform or an ecosystem where multiple devices can connect, or multiple ecosystems can connect and interact, collaborate, and exchange data with each other, right? So if it is a only one-way communication, it is not definitely an IoT. So each and every device should be able to transmit the data and receive the data. Not only receiving the data, once you receive the data, it has to act upon what kind of command it has been received from the data, right? So this is what makes IoT very unique. Being sitting remotely, you can do anything anywhere, right? You can connect to any devices when you are away from your home. Like example, in smart home cases, you can connect to your devices in your home and see what is actually happening. You can stop your devices, you can start your devices, you can control your devices. Once it's example in smart homes. And if you go to any kind of automation, right? Smart automation, industrial automation, you can do anything remotely. You don't need to physically present there, where the systems are already intelligent, right? That's what we call it as. So for IoT, people usually call this as in two terms. One is connected and other one is smart. So basically connected is the ecosystem is connected, and the smart is basically it can act upon, depending on the data, what it is, it can intelligently act upon what it can do, right? So that is the main aspect of IoT. So basically they call it as in smart systems or smart home or smart city or connected factory. So these connected and smart is the word which they generally use in IoT industry. Okay. So what are all the key features and benefits of IoT, right? We saw the evolution of technology led to IoT, but still, why we need to get into IoT? Why there is so much buzz about IoT, right? So earlier, if you see, like for everything, we completely depend on manpower, especially human manpower, right? So some of the pain points in the IoT industry is how do you minimize the human effort, right? So in certain places, it is basically with respect to cost. In certain places, it is with respect to safety and other things where humans cannot go on day-to-day basis, and how they can remotely monitor the particular machines or remotely get the data out of that machines, right? So this is one of the major benefit of IoT, where it reduces the human intervention, which eventually led to a lot of cost savings, right? It's basically automated. When the automation process came, it basically led to a lot of cost savings. So that is one of the benefit I would see as an outcome of the IoT. And next is a lot of solutions available nowadays through IoT, right? So when you collect a lot of data from multiple systems, so you can actually develop an artificial intelligence systems where, depending on the data, you can predict, prevent, and do a lot of things, right? So that is what we call it as an data science and machine learning stuff, where you can build a lot of systems based on predictive maintenance, preventive maintenance. That can happen only when you have a sufficient amount of data, meaning you should have a history of the particular system to know that what is the behavioral pattern of the system, how it is behaving in the past, and depending on that, you can predict what is the point of failure and how the failure can happen in the future. So all these artificial intelligence systems is only possible when you have the smart systems that can collect the data and transfer the data to the cloud. Example, you can take it as a example of our day-to-day activities in Flipkart. So Flipkart throws up a lot of suggestions for you, right? It depends on what is your pattern of searching. So if you search something related to books, even though you are in a grocery section, you can see something like there is some new books available depending on your interest, right? So these are all depending on what kind of pattern you search, and it will match the pattern and see similar pattern search from different users and come up with a suggestion that this can be useful for you. And of course, we do purchase a lot of things comes from suggestion rather than our search. That is what the statistics say, and that is what the research says actually. So these are all the some of the high level benefits, and also some of the things what I see nowadays is like rapid development, right? So earlier, if I want to develop anything, so when I was starting my career, when we develop anything, the project will go about 6 months, 9 months, and 1 year. So nowadays we are in a world where we have to deliver the features every week. So would you believe this is every week we are delivering features? And also, if you see Amazon or a kind of bigger players, they do deliver features every 3 to 4 hours with a lot of automation in it. And this rapid prototype developments is also one of the biggest advantage and key features of this IoT technology. And of course, we talked about cost-effective systems and connectivity of the systems, and the data collection and aggregation is one of the key features. And we will see some of the challenges of IoT. So when it comes to any technology, right, we have a lot of advantages. And of course, one of the technology will come with disadvantages, right? So, hello, you're able to hear me?
Yes, Kiran. Yes, you can proceed. Yes.
Yeah, no, there was a sudden power failure. I thought I got disconnected. Okay, so any technology which is evolving and coming up has definitely challenges involved there. So one of the biggest challenge in IoT is, so basically in IoT, the first and foremost important thing is connectivity. If you don't have connectivity, you cannot receive the data, you cannot communicate with the device, you cannot control the data. So connectivity is one of the biggest aspect and challenge in IoT. And second is, of course, security, right? Even the physical data centers can be hacked nowadays. Probably many of you heard about the recent hack happened to Cognizant, right? So their data service has been hacked and it led to a lot of data theft and other things. So with the sophisticated systems and technology in place, still the data centers are being higher scrutiny for this hackers. So how do we make IoT systems secure is another big topic which is currently debatable all over the world. And next is, of course, your data capturing capabilities, because if you see like currently as we have intelligent and smart systems, we capture a lot of data and the data are being pushed to the cloud, right? So cloud is basically for us, it is virtual, but definitely at some place it is located physically, right? So we are actually leasing a space in certain data centers. But if we keep transferring the data at this rate, it will reach a level where our data centers, even cloud data centers will not be able to handle the data. We will have so much of volume. And also, if you see whatever data we are capturing, it is about 10 to 15% of data which is actually useful, right? So we might capture everything, but 80 to 90% of data which is not useful. So there are a lot of technological evolutions happening on edge computing nowadays to see how we can decrease the use of data transmission from the edge devices and see how the analytics models also can be built on edge devices. And IoT is actually a lot of multiple things which can collaborate together and communicate, right? So you have a lot of devices, lots of endpoint devices, lot of technologies, cloud systems. So if you see, you have a lot of players involved in it. So the interoperability and compatibility of different players is still a challenge. But compared to last 3 to 4 years, now it is definitely in a better shape because they have a consortium nowadays to discuss on the protocols, how we can come up. For certain industries, they already have a protocol, but for an communication role, we do have a protocol. But interoperability, definitely when you develop some solutions for Azure cloud, you cannot lift and shift when you move to different clouds. So that is still being a big challenge. And of course, identification and authentication of different technologies. So still that is one of the biggest challenge which we see in IoT. So with this, we have just covered about what is the rise of IoT and what is the benefits and key features of IoT. So I'll move on to the next slide. So this gives a high level snapshot of IoT in various industries. This is not an extensive list, but just a high level snapshot of IoT applications, right? So the very first thing is definitely we can see IoT in our day-to-day life. I can give a brief example in the next slide. And of course, healthcare is one of the place where IoT is really evolving. And next is smart cities. So there are a lot of initiatives across multiple countries where they are doing a lot of initiatives for the smart cities, like smart parking systems and especially on waste management, water management, and all those things. And of course, in agriculture, I am not sure how far it is matured in India, but definitely in West, like Europe and the US, they have invested a lot in IoT technologies for agriculture, and we already have a lot of solutions for this. And in industrial automations is definitely in revolution. In many places, you can see a lot of things are automated so that it reduces the human intervention as well as it gives the better and efficient output, right? And of course, in disaster management. So this is one of the main area where, government is also, a lot of federal governments is also looking for solutions where it can decrease the human intervention, and also rapid response for it, right? So these are all snapshot of some of the high level applications in IoT. Probably I'll touch base on 2 or 3 use cases of IoT, and then some of the applications of industrial use cases. So where do we see IoT in our everyday life? We see it in almost everything, right? The smartphones, what we are using, is basically one of the source for your data generation, right? So it can generate data for multiple things, for your Flipkart, for data analytics, for in your Facebook, of course, for your personalizations and other things. It can use your Facebook as one data source generation. So for a lot of whatever application you install in your mobile, it's basically one of the data source, right, for that particular application. That particular application eventually is one of the data source for other external applications, right? So that is one such example. And of course, your wearable technologies. So what basically like your smartwatches. So your smartwatches generates a lot of data, especially it monitors your multiple parameters, human vital parameters, and then it transfers it to the application which you installed in your mobile. So the mobile application actually can analyze the data and actually suggest back saying that if there is an anomaly, your BP is going out of limits, your heart rate is going beyond the limits, right? So such kind of things actually alert humans saying that you need to go to the hospital or you need a medical intervention, right? So these things are the evolution in wearable technology. So probably I'll give one more example in our day-to-day life. So smart vehicles nowadays, they call it as connected cars, right? So probably many of you would have heard about a car called MG Hector. So this car is basically called as a connected car, right? So it comes with an inbuilt 5G enabled SIM card. So which means that car is always connected to a server. So a lot of things has been monitored from that. So it generates a lot of data, a lot of sensor data, especially like your with voice assistant, it can say like where you want to go. It can navigate you through, and also you can have a mobile remote control, right? Because all your vehicle parameters are controlled to cloud. You can have an application in your mobile and you can just send a command over it. And also you get a smart device information. When you get inside the car, if you say like diagnose your car, it will analyze all the parts in your system and say, give you a diagnostic report in less than a minute, right? You don't need to go to the service center to see what is the problem in your car. Before that, you can identify it. And when you get this diagnostic report, it will even have an option to send it to the service center, so that before you reach the service center, whatever the things required to repair your car or service your car will be ready. So this decrease the time, right, for your servicing. So you can go and get your vehicle serviced in less than an hour and come back. So that is one of the future it is having. And also vehicle collision alert system. So whenever there is an accident or anything happened, it can actually do an emergency call to your either to whatever the pre-configured numbers, right? So you need to define some numbers and it can do an emergency call alerting them saying that your vehicle is in danger. So these are all some of the features in this connected cars, but it is not limited to it. We have a lot of features with this connected car, and autonomous vehicles is one of the biggest talk of the town now, right? But still, due to a lot of regulatory things and security is one of the biggest aspect because of which this autonomous cars is still not gone to the next level. But definitely we do have this autonomous drones and other stuff, which will eventually, we will have a lot of things going forward for this autonomous vehicles. So this is where we see IoT in our day-to-day life. And I'll go to the simple use case of healthcare, right? So probably in the interest of time, I might need to go a little fast. So if you want to have any questions, please put it in the chat. My friend will get back to me if you have any questions and I can clear it off. Okay. So how IoT is being impacted in the healthcare industry. So what was the major problems healthcare industry faced earlier and how IoT has helped it to overcome now, right? So first thing is, earlier there was no real-time data available. So which means that the devices were not connected so that you will not be able to get the data, right? Earlier, if you see, like one simple example is X-ray systems. Earlier, you need to put a film, flash the film with your UV rays and then get the image and then take it, then develop the film, and then you need to wait for about 1 to 2 hours to see that X-ray. But nowadays you have a digital X-ray. You just need to go to the machine, it can flash it and it can upload the data to the system, right? So the data is available real time nowadays. And lack of smart care devices. So earlier, if you see like all the sophisticated systems like CT, MRI and all those things, it has connected to a computer where it can acquire the data. But if you want to do remote diagnostic of the devices, it is a big challenge actually. And if you see, all the smart care devices are pretty expensive. And also when any engineer or any service person has to come, they have a very limited human personnel, right? So it is really difficult. They have to come and they have to see what is the problem. Then again, they need to go back. Again, they need to come back with the solution. But nowadays, you can actually do everything remotely. You can see unless if you need a physical replacement of any of the parts, you don't need to visit any of the hospitals or anything, right? So the smart care devices is one of the major problem healthcare industry was facing earlier. And of course, there was no analytics available at all. What is basically an analytics, right? So you don't have a huge amount of data earlier to give you a prediction about certain things. One example is there is a machine learning model developed by IBM Watson, where for certain type of diseases, right, if you feed the data of the particular patient, it can give a better suggestions compared to the world's best doctors. How this can happen? Because the model has been fed with a lot of data where it can analyze the patterns of different types of patients, their age group, and what kind of medicines it has been given to them. So it analyzes everything and comes back with a better approach. So we have a lot of standard analytics available nowadays where with respect to the data, we can get a lot of benefit out of it, right? So these are all the problems majorly faced by healthcare industry, with which, like I just briefly touched base these points in the previous slide itself. So we can actually enable healthcare industry with the IoT technologies. And if you see, like currently the market share, if you see, the 80% of healthcare devices are capable of generating data, right? So basically it might not be connected, but it is capable of generating the data, and already 50% of whatever the devices currently available in the market for IoT in healthcare industry, it is already smarter, which means it is not only able to generate the data, it will be able to transmit the data and also receive the data, and it can act upon the command which has been given remotely, right? And also, if you see, like there are almost 5,000 plus proven analytical models available for a quicker resolution. Even if a doctor wants to get some kind of opinion, it's just a click of a button. He can see what kind of different types of treatments available, or what are the different types of medicines can be provided for certain diseases. So all those things are just a click of a button nowadays. So this is one of the biggest revolution I see it in healthcare industry. So I'll just move on to the next slide. So this is just an indicative high level architecture. So where it shows how it is being connected from the end devices to your smart device. It can be, the end device can be your mobile phone or your computer or mobile web applications, anything. So this is just a high level overview of the end-to-end connectivity of this ecosystem. I have a small architecture at the end of the presentation where I'll tell you what are all the different components involved for this architecture. So with this, if there are any questions, we can quickly take questions for a couple of minutes.
So yes, Karan. So I got few questions from audience. So let's start. Let's start one by one.
Yeah.
So what is the role of MQTT, message queuing telemetry transport protocol in IoT?
Yeah.
So,
okay. So MQTT is basically an protocol which is used to transfer data between your endpoint devices to the cloud, right? So what is your endpoint devices? Your endpoint devices can be any IoT edge devices where you are capturing the data. That is your endpoint devices. From there, if you want to transfer data to the cloud, you can transfer it through MQTT protocol. So it is a real-time data transfer where the data transfer can happen in really fast. There is another way of transmitting data also through HTTPS, but HTTPS data transfer, you can do it through files, but this is a real-time data transfer actually. So that is the difference between your MQTT and the HTTP data transfer. Hope that answers the question. Yeah, Naren, can we move on to the next one?
yeah. So what is a DHT sensor?
Sorry?
What is the use of DHT sensor? So
DHT sensor.
yeah, digital temperature and humidity sensor.
Yep. I would answer it in a different way. So in the IoT industry, for me, if you ask me, I am not so much concerned about what are the different types of sensors. What I am concerned about is what type of data it generates for your use case. So probably the use case what you are talking about can be measuring the humidity and temperatures. So for that, there can be a lot of sensors available where you can aggregate the data from that particular sensors, right? So I see sensors as a data aggregation source, which is one of the key component for IoT ecosystem.
Okay. So the next question is, what is the role of Li-Fi in IoT? Li-Fi.
Okay, Li-Fi is basically a kind of a lightweight protocol for your Wi-Fi, right? So it is basically an how we can optimize your wireless communication stuff. That is still an upcoming technology. So if you ask me, like practically, we don't use any Li-Fi for production live systems yet because it is still an evolving technologies. So probably we may need to explore more on that, and I can come back on that question. Yeah.
Okay, actually, I unmuted parties. I mean, I gave rights to participants to unmute. So if there are any specific questions, they can raise. They can unmute and raise.
And also, Babu, please capture these questions. We will get back to the participants with the detailed answers for the same.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, participants, you can unmute and you can raise your questions.
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yeah.
And this is Sendil Rajamanohar, working as assistant professor in Pandian Saraswati Yadav Engineering College, sir.
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Actually, sir, my question is, first I would like to thank because you have given a very good explanation about basic concept of IoT and also application of the IoT. And is there a separate network for a smart vehicle communication?
Separate network?
Yes.
Okay. So probably I might need to slightly give a different perspective to it. So when we develop any application in the cloud, so you are asking about how do we communicate from your edge devices to cloud, or how do you communicate between multiple components?
Multiple components. Multiple components.
Okay, I can give a simple brief example of some web application, right? So a web application can have a multiple tiers. So first is your where your endpoint will, when you click on any website, where it gets the request, right? That is the application tier. Then you will have a database tier. Then you will have one more tier where you can save all other data, right? So in cloud, you have multiple concepts like subnets and VNets. So virtual network, and inside the virtual network, you can have multiple subnets. So these things, what it does is only it will expose certain endpoints, like only it will expose your application tier. So anybody from outside can access only that application tier. So it will have a public IP address, but within that, whatever the request it has to take, like basically it has to fetch the data from the database, right? So if anybody corrupts the database, then definitely their application will be hacked. So what they can do, that communication between your application tier and your database tier, that can be only internal. It will not be exposed to the external application. It will not have any public IP address. So it will have a private IP address. Within the subnet, it can communicate. It cannot communicate to the outside world. That is with respect to the internal application communication, where you can segregate actually. And with respect to the IoT endpoints also, nowadays you have a lot of technology like TLS and other encryption technologies available, right? All the data is being transmitted with private and public key pair. So if you don't have this private public key pair, you cannot decrypt the data. Now, by default, all the data in IoT technologies are being transferred, stored in an encrypted way. Only when it is being processed, it will be decrypted and processed, so that your security is taken care of. So does that answer your question?
Sir, yeah, exactly. You have given a verbal answer. I can understand. If you are going to give any use case for this, we can understand very broadly.
Okay, so use case means kind of a live demo you are saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so probably we can plan for the next session, sir, because we do not have any live use case now. So in the interest of time, we have kept it as an webinar session for now. Actually, definitely we'll plan it in the next session, sir. Naren, can you please take note of these things, Naren?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, this is Saranya Devi from the faculty of PSV College.
Yeah, ma'am.
So I have a doubt. As the data is exchanged over the internet, it is very easy for cyber criminals to steal the valuable information. So is there any protocol available to overcome the challenge, sir?
No, basically that's what I was just explaining for the previous question also, right? So whatever the data is being transferred, there is a lot of background noise. Naren, can you just mute it, Naren? I can answer this question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as I answered in the earlier question, right? So whatever the data transmission is happening nowadays is through encryption. And also all the data is being transmitted through secure channels in your MQTT with the TLS transport level security as well. So not only in while transmitting the data, even when you're storing the data in multiple tiers, right? Your application tier, database tier, and storage layers, everywhere the data is being, by default, the IoT ecosystem, the data is being encrypted and saved. All the data can be decrypted only with two keys, private key and public key. So there is a key pair combination of this. So key value combination is there. Only with the only with that keys, it can be decrypted. And also you have a lot of certificates available. So any company can generate their self-signed certificate, or you have a lot of certification authorities like DigiCert and other leading organizations where they provide the digital certificates. So any communication will be validated with your digital certificate. Until unless it is not valid, it will not transfer any data. So these are all the certain features which leads to the secure communication, but still definitely the systems are hackable to certain extents, where people are working on a lot of security technologies. So hope that answers your question. So do we have any other question? Okay. If not, we'll have a small quiz.
There is a question. There is a question from audience.
Yeah, Naren.
So final question maybe. What is the difference between wireless sensor network and IoT network?
Wireless sensor network and IoT network. Okay. I don't see anything separate as an IoT network. So basically IoT is an ecosystem, right? So wireless communication is one of the part of IoT. So I don't see anything separate as an IoT network. Probably as an ecosystem, end-to-end communication, we can see it as an IoT network. I can give a brief architecture overview, which I have at the end of the session. So where I can show you what are all the different components within this IoT ecosystem. But I don't see a separate terminology as an IoT network, Naren.
Okay, fine. Yeah, we will discuss at the end. Okay. Yeah, we can
Please
quickly
capture
proceed to
these
the
questions. Definitely, some of the questions probably I might not be able to answer. So we will discuss with our technical team, and then we will revert back with the exact answers for this. So we'll have a small quiz. So this is a kind of COVID awareness quiz. So I would request everyone to go to this particular myquiz.org. I'll ping one link in the chat window of the Zoom. So you can just click that. So I have pasted the link to the quiz. So you can just click on to that and enter your name, and you would be able to enter to the quiz actually. So nobody has logged in yet. So we'll start in less than a minute. Let's close it faster so that we can move on to the next slides. I can see 3 users, 6 users, 7, 8. Let's get started in another 30 seconds. 14, 17, 19, 23, 24, 25, 27. Okay, let's get started. So each question will have 10 to 15 seconds. 18, 21 answers. Okay. The time is up. Let's see how many answered correct. 100%. Good one. Let's go to the next one. 15 seconds to answer. Got 34 answers. And 86% got it right. Third one. %79% got it right. Somebody feels Tamil Nadu has maximum number of cases. Absolutely no. You're second highest. Got 40 answers. Good. And let's see how many answered it right. 87%. Still, the research is on. It is not approved. So currently medicine is not away. Yeah, the last one. Yeah, 90% got it right. So let's see who leads the leaderboard. Yeah, it's yes, Asha. Good. Thanks for your participation. So let's get back to our presentation. So I'll start with the next use case. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip a couple of slides. So we'll see that how IoT is being used in disaster management, right? So whatever has been listed out here is in a developing countries, basically like India, right? So we have a highly dense population where you cannot predict anything in certain aspects. And second is our infrastructure. We cannot say it as a poor, but definitely it's a challenging evacuation infrastructure, and we are exposed to severe weather conditions. So if it is a summer, we have an extreme summer. If it is a winter, we have an extreme winter. So these are all certain challenges in disaster management, right? So especially if you see like in extreme hot weather conditions, when there is a forest fire, so somebody has to alert the authorities, who probably a forest ranger or someone, right? By the time the people responds back for that particular situation, it will be out of our control. So lot of situations arises like this. So what kind of solutions IoT gives, right? So somebody was asking about the humidity and temperature sensor sometime back. So these kind of sensors nowadays, if you see in forest, you will have ranges, probably one ranger in every 20 or 30 kilometers, because it's a vast range of forest. You cannot deploy so many manpower there, right? So you have only few number of personals who will be around about 100-kilometer radius of forest. You can say about 10 to 15 people will be there, but they cannot go and have a complete surveillance of the systems, right? Even though nowadays they can have a CCTVs connected, but still if there is any anomaly detected or anything happening with respect to forest fire or like a heavy rains or anything, right? So they can predict it with this sensor, help of the sensors. So already the infrastructure is available with connected CCTV cameras. They can connect it to some network and all. They have installed a lot of sensors where if there is any rise in the temperature, it can immediately alert. So what kind of IoT use case we can see is like this is one of the use cases where if there is a forest fire, how it can help it, right? So when there is a fire in the forest, so it can have sensors where it can actually get the temperature, and of course on the it can measure on the what is the emission of the carbon from that particular fire, right? So with these things, definitely there can be a threshold levels which has to be set. So all the sensors can be calibrated accordingly, and it can continuously send the data. That is one thing. And second is if there is any sudden surge or spike in any of the parameters, right? So that parameters, when it is being pushed to the cloud, that cloud can continuously monitor the data. It need not be a manual intervention, but you can have a lot of analytical models or predictive models developed where it can see if there is any spike in any parameter, or if there is any anomaly detected in any of the sensor parameters. It can have an automated response system. Automated response system meaning it can do certain kind of actions. So you can actually send an alerts to a nearby personnel who is nearby ranges to exactly see what exactly the situation is, or it can actually send an automated call to nearby your fire stations, nearby hospitals, nearby police stations for certain instructions, right? So all these things can be automated, but still we have a lot of challenge with respect to the infrastructure deployment, because when you deploy these kind of sensors and other things with wild animals and other infrastructure problems are there, right? So it can actually damage the infrastructure. But still there are a lot of technological advancements happening where like with the you have a lot of portable Wi-Fi devices without any wires or anything. It can actually communicate. So satellite communications are also becoming cheaper nowadays, where the data can be directly communicated to the satellite and can be pushed to the cloud. So with the advancement in wireless technologies and the data transmission technologies, right? So the disaster management is one of the good use case where IoT is really helping a lot for multiple organizations. So this is one use case in IoT. And I'll just quickly touch base on the industry use cases, whichever we have worked till now. So I have worked in multiple industries. So to name it, like manufacturing, aviation, shipping, and supply chain industries. So what we have done, so I'll quickly touch base on the solution, what we have done, though I'm not going to give in detail about the architecture and other stuff, but I'll give a brief overview about it. So we were working with one of the customer in UK. So they are heavy diesel generator manufacturer company. So they supply heavy diesel generators and heavy diesel generators for UK rail network, right? So the problem statement when we started was they have a lot of engines. So when the engine comes for servicing, they have something called the ECU in their engine. So it is an electronic control unit where it will continuously capture all the data, and it will have a statistics of the data, right? So the problem statement what we got is when we receive the any engine for servicing, the time we take to understand what are all the different lifetime for particular spare parts in the engine, and then the availability of the spare parts is becoming a challenge, because those heavy engines parts are manufactured on demand, especially in manufacturing as well as in aviation industry as well, right? So what we have developed a solution is remaining useful life prediction solution. What we have done is we have installed a gateway in the engines. Already the engine is having an electronic control unit where the data is being aggregated already. So the device is already able to collect the data. So with the gateway being installed in the engine, we were able to transmit the collected data to the cloud. So now we have a system where the data is being remotely collected, right? The first problem statement is solved. And second problem statement, so all the data collected from that particular engine, we will actually have an analysis of, you have a threshold and notification system where you can set a threshold for each parts of the system. So for a certain part, there can be a life of about 1,000 running hours. So all the running hours will be monitored in that particular sensor. So when the running hours reach a certain limit, right, 750 hours or 600 hours, they have a threshold of a service threshold, part replacement threshold, and multiple things. So you can set thresholds and notification for each level. So when there is a service for 750 hours, the service center will get a notification in 700 hours itself saying that this particular engine will come for a service in next 50 hours. So they will be ready with the required infrastructure or required manpower. Or if it requires replacement, it will say that next 100 hours, this particular part is coming for a replacement. So they can place the order, they can procure it, and then they can keep it ready. So this is one of the solution which we have developed. It looks simple, but the amount of model you have to develop, it's actually a huge effort, because the connectivity, it's a rail engines, right? The connectivity will not be stable. So you need to continuously get the data when the train is in motion as well, right? So there are a lot of practical challenges involved, but this is one of the good solutions which we have developed and which is already being used in UK now. That's one solution which I have worked on. And second is with respect to the shipping industry. So we have worked with one of the leading European shipping industry customer. So where they had one problem statement is availability of the tugboats. So many of you, I'm not sure whether you know about tugboats. So when any big ships is sailing and it is reaching the port, they will actually switch off the engines of the big ships probably 30 to 40 kilometers before, because the fuel consumption of this ship is so huge. To navigate it to the port, they will use the boats called tugboats. So those are all small boats which will be tied in probably 4 sides or 6 sides of the ship, and it will be navigated to the docking station in your port. So these tugboats availability was a biggest challenge for them, because the tugboats range is only 20 to 30 kilometers. So it is always reachable from the shore. What they usually do is they will call the captains in the tugboats and ask where are they, how many in how many nautical miles they are currently there, and how far they can reach. So all these things is becoming a challenge, because some people can say I'm not available, though you cannot validate they are available or not. So what we have done is, in all the even it is a small boat, you have an onboard system where it already collects the data, right? They have something called the Praxis system where they have a AMCS, automatic and monitoring control system, where it receives all the data. So what we have done there is we have again gone back and installed an gateway, and with the gateway we collect a lot of parameters, of course, and the availability of the tugboats can be monitored through whether they are online or offline. So when they switch on the engine of that tugboat, it will be available, and they can see the geolocation position of the tugboats. And without any human intervention, we have developed an application also, so that when some boat is coming, they can ask the port for request for tugboats. The application will automatically search for the nearest tugboats, and it will automatically send the request to the tugboats. They can accept our request. It's as good as like your application in your Uber or Ola, right? When you book a cab, the driver can accept or reject. So we have made that workflow so that when the captain accepts it, the information will be sent to the captain in the ship, so that they can communicate with each other, and then they can reach the place and bring the tugboats to the port. So this has decreased 80% of their operational cost. So this is one such solution we have developed for that customer. And of course, we have developed some other solutions and still developing some solutions for them. And when it comes to the aviation industry, so many of you, I'm not sure whether you are aware, the engines for aviation industry is not sold. It is being leased actually. So they will lease the engines to the aircraft manufacturers like your Airbus or other people, right? Bombardier or other people. So they will lease the engines to them, like your Rolls-Royce or your GE or your Pratt & Whitney. So they lease the engines to the aircraft manufacturers. So how the revenue is generated is the number of hours the engine is in air, meaning the number of hours it is in operating condition, that much revenue it will generate. So the number of hours it is in the ground, it will not yield any revenue for them. That is how they get the revenue. So their intention is how fast the engines can be serviced and the engines can be put it in back to the operation, right? And also, as you know, like the aircraft engines is one of the expensive thing compared to any other engines in any other segment, right? So, and the parts which is being manufactured for an aircraft is also on demand basis. When you give the order, then only they will actually manufacture the particular part. And the manufacturing is also not done in everywhere in the world. So if somebody needs a parts in extreme North America, so if the part has to come from Asia, it definitely takes some time, right? So they need to order it, manufacture it, and then ship it. A lot of logistics and other issues also there. So there also we made an application called Planner application. And here transmission of data is not possible when the flight is in motion, right? Even though it is possible because it can be done only through satellite communication, the amount of data it generates while it is flying is huge. One particular journey, like about 1 hour of journey of an flight can generate about 2.5 terabytes of data. So that's a indicative numbers. It can increase as well, right? So they cannot transmit all the data to satellite communication. So when the flight grounds, they actually download the data for each flight and then they upload it in the system, where they will continuously analyze multiple parameters of the system. And we have developed the application for better servicing of the particular engines, and all the service parts which has to be replaced, all the workflows are automated so that it will trigger the notifications to vendors for parts manufacturing, and also service manpower availability and all. So we have developed one solution for this aviation industry. And next is a container management system. So for a supply chain industry, so we work with one of the European customer where we fit small portable beacons. We call it as a beacons. It is a Bluetooth enabled device, and this is basically within a port actually. So tracing the containers as well as monitoring the containers is becoming one of the issue for them. So we have placed the beacons for that, and the beacons will be communicating through a Wi-Fi to the cloud actually. So they will be transmitting data to the Wi-Fi devices. It's basically Wi-Fi devices is your gateway where it can accumulate the data. From there, we will be sending the data to the cloud. And actually the port operations manager can see how many number of containers available, how many inbound containers, how many outbound containers, what is the capacity of the container. When it goes to each phase or each like loading, unloading or weighing, and all that stages, the particular containers will be logged into the system, and the status of the containers will be logged into the system. So this enables them to actually efficiently use the containers, and then they can actually monitor the all the status of the containers in one particular dashboard. So this is one of the use case which we developed. So with this, we are completing the use cases, and as we spoke earlier, so these are all the future scope. Basically, the energy, what I was talking about is the amount of data which we are generating. So the bandwidth is going to be one of the biggest issues. So a lot of discussions are going around on edge analytics, where the data can be actually compressed or analyzed and sent only the required data to the cloud. And of course, there are a lot of questions which we got for security. Security is still a big debate. Definitely, a lot of advancements of technology has happened over the transport level protocols and encryption and decryption, but still there is a way some people are hacking. One simple example, I quoted data security breach in one of the data centers of a leading organization. So definitely there is a lot of scope for improvement in security, and of course getting the data in real time. What I said is, whatever the data we are getting is just in time. It is not a real time data. We are getting the data from the systems, but for a lot of onboard decisions to be taken, so we need to have a real-time data. For that, definitely still we are working on a lot of this wireless communication technologies where it can optimize and send the data at machine real-time actually.
Yeah, Kiran, final questions. Final question from audience, like, so I mean, quick update on IoT 4.0.
IoT 4.0.
Yes.
That's
So,
an interesting question because I have not heard of it. So maybe I'll check on this and come back. I have heard about Industry 4.0, but not IoT 4.0.
okay.
So probably I'll come back on this, Naren.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, with this we are finishing the scope of it. Just this is the, as I said, I'll just show you a simple architecture, right? This is the architecture from Azure Cloud. Okay, so we develop a lot of applications in Azure. So this is the high level architecture. So the first thing is things. So basically it is a edge devices. So where we are collecting the data, and the next is collecting, and next is acting on the data, right? So this is the three parts of IoT. So the middle one is insights, where you collect the data. With the gateway, you can connect it and you can transfer it for any purpose. So for real-time processing, we call it as something as called as stream analytics processing, because you will continuously get the data. We will be continuously analyzing the data, right? Once we analyze the data, we will give the output to the applications. Either it can be a mobile application or web application or anything. And if you want, you can store the data as well in any of the databases, right? And there are a lot of machine learning tools which can be developed for the data, and we can develop a lot of prediction models also that can be integrated with any of your business logics. So this is the simple architecture which is available in Microsoft Azure side. You can, it's a publicly available information. You can go through it, and the material also will be very easily understandable, right? And I just want to put this skill matrix. Probably you might be interested in it. So as we said, there are a lot of different skill sets available, right? So I'll just quickly go to the previous slide. So the first part, so when somebody wants to be an expertise in this particular part, they need to know about embedded systems. Basically, it involves your device, and you need to know embedded systems, real-time operating systems. Slowly, when we come to the middle part, this is basically completely cloud infrastructure, right? So you need to know about your networking, virtualization, storage, and other concepts. And most of this scripting happens here with programming languages in JSON or YAML, right? And analytics. So when it comes to the analytics with the data, whatever being stored, so you need to know about statistics and all those things. And of course, UI reporting tools are nothing but an UI UX design. And your business integration and applications can be developed as an web application, mobile application, and all those things, right? With this, why I just brought this architecture here, so that it will actually connect to what are all the skills and roles for that particular skills. So these are all the like a high level skill sets which currently in the IoT ecosystem. This is not the extensive list, but this I just try to capture the snapshot of this. What are all the different roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, Kiran, can you quickly, briefly explain about the roles so that it will be very useful for students to choose the path?
Sure. Yeah. So probably if you are an electronics and EC student, right? So definitely you will have a background on your embedded systems, and you will definitely know about a Linux or some real-time operating system, right? And we do have a C programming language as part of our curriculum. So you can definitely look for this IoT Edge Engineer. So this is one of the upcoming technology not many engineers are available. Still in our projects also, we sometimes find it difficult to get people because a lot of people are going towards other technologies. We don't find many people here. So this is one good opportunity where if you want to become IoT engineer, and C and C++ is widely used, but Java and Python also for certain applications, but still C is the majority of the gateways which uses C language. So if you know C, embedded systems, and the basics of RTOS and Bash and shell scripting, you are very well qualified for IoT edge engineer, right? And next is cloud. So basically for a cloud, I would say like a computer science engineers. So you will know about many concepts about network, virtualization, storage, and all those things, right? So you should have a strong knowledge on all these things. And you have a lot of platforms available like Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and PTC. But predominantly Azure and the AWS is widely used for all enterprise application production systems. So if you have you can go to any Azure or AWS portal and see like you have a lot of courses to get certified. And once you have a certification, like you will be good to go with this cloud engineer, right? And next is data engineer or data scientist. So this is the new evolving technology, hot in the market. But for this, definitely like you need at least a probability and statistics knowledge. I was not good at probability and statistics. I struggled a lot during my 4th semester. So, and you need calculus and linear algebra as well. Plus, deep learning and machine learning is based on the statistics and probabilities. So you need to have a good knowledge of these 3 functional areas. And with respect to programming language, Python, R, and MATLAB is used, but the challenge is with the MATLAB is the licensed version. So Python is being widely used even in the production system, and the community usage is also very high, so that they develop a lot of modules where you don't need to develop any code. Actually, you can use that API and then develop any models. So Python is very hot in the market now. And next is application development, right? So any data you receive, any data you analyze, it has to be presented to somebody, right? So who is going to consume it? Either they will consume it via your web application, or they will consume it through your mobile applications, right? Or now you have a hybrid application also, where a particular application can act depending upon the request from the end user, whether it is mobile or web. So the general technologies which has been used is Java and .NET. So for mobile applications also, like for Android, they widely use Java. And for iOS, they use called Swift, which is Objective-C. It's based on C, but it's Objective-C. So these are all the programming languages for application development. And of course, your UI and UX design. So any application, whatever the application development which I was talking about in the previous one is basically it involves a front end, back end, as well as your database management, right? But the UI UX design is completely your front end. So how the application looks like nowadays, even though if something is too good, if it's visually is not good, we don't purchase it, right? So the same way, even the applications, if the application is not visually compelling enough, it will not give a good touch and feel for the end users, right? So visual communication, interactive design, and branding and color theory. So these are all some of the functional knowledge which is required for UI and UX design. And some of the programming languages is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for basic UI application development. For responsive application development, you have advanced technologies like AngularJS and Node.js. And of course, for UX designing, Adobe is one, but it is not the extensive list, right? We have a lot of other UX design applications also available. So this is just a glimpse of what I thought, like I can give a high level overview. So like it will help your students to choose what they can do when they want to get into IoT jobs, right? So with that, I'm at the end of this session. Probably we'll take a quick quiz on IoT. Then I can take questions for 5 to 10 minutes for sure, actually. So I'll paste the link in the chat. Yeah, I have pasted the link in the chat. So we'll quickly finish this. It's a Saturday, so Saturday morning. Let's quickly wind it up and then. Just hosting the quiz. Just give me another 30 seconds. Yeah, I think I am late. Oh, okay, good. Okay, we'll start in 20 seconds. So my laptop might be showing wrong time. It is actually a European time, so don't confuse with it. Yeah, good amount of users logged in. Let's see.
Let's wait for some time. Like people are interested to join this IoT quiz, so let's wait.
Okay.
So we have 90 plus audience, and I also pasted in WhatsApp group as well. There are 200 plus audience, so
Sure.
they may help them to evaluate their IoT knowledge in terms of industry perspective, so that.
Yeah, it is not evaluation.
Like
just
better understanding. Yeah.
Quick check. Yeah, quick check on.
Quick check. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, as Narayan mentioned, we'll wait for another 30 seconds, then we'll get started.
51 users, yeah, right?
Yeah, 52 currently. Yeah. And maybe I'll give a quick tip here. This mic quiz is freeware. So even in your colleges or anywhere, if you want to use it, actually you can use it with limited questions, but definitely you can use it for your internal purpose also. So this will give an interactive way of interacting with students, or during seminars or any webinars, you can use it internally as well. Okay, Naren, it stays for in 53 only, so I'll just get started now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, you'll get 20 seconds to answer each question. And let's see who is going to lead the leaderboard. Okay, the time is up. Oh, so IoT is basically an ecosystem. It's not a technology. There are a lot of technologies involved in IoT actually. Okay. They've received 46 answers, 48.
The understanding itself is like people are 20% they are having IoT.
Yeah. No, I mean, generally that is the perception. So it is an not a technology, it's a platform where it integrates multiple technologies. Okay, it's 90%. Good one. Let's go to the next one. So I have actually mentioned a keyword while I was elaborating on IoT. So if you can capture that keyword, then you can answer it easily. Oh, very less answers. Oh, okay. 53 answers received. Okay. Connect factory is the right answer. Probably the connected is highlighting is wrong. So what are all the key features of IoT? It has 3 answers. So it's a multiple answer question. Okay. Cognitive computing is not a key feature actually. It's a feature. It's not an IoT feature. Okay. I think this should be easy. Received maximum answers for this. 70% got it right. 3 more to go. Okay, so for this also there is a keyword which I have repeated in a couple of slides. So if you can capture that, then you can easily answer this. There is only one answer for this. Oh, 17% got it right. That's the catch there. So, okay. I think I missed to cover the point. So let's see how many people get it right. %30% got it right. Yes. So by 2018, we had about 20 to 25 billion. So going forward, every year it is going to double actually. Yeah. So you have 3 answers for this question. So select 3 answers for this. So you can go with wrong elimination. So you can just eliminate one and then go with the other one. Cost is definitely not the factor because you have a lot of cost-effective solutions nowadays. Thank you. So Mohit is the leader in the leaderboard. Thank you everyone for joining this quiz. Okay. Okay. So that brings to the end of this session. So I'll quickly we can take questions for next 5 to 10 minutes if you have any questions. Naren, do you have any questions in the chat box?
Yeah, let me check. So can you explain role of IoT in India, like controlling COVID-19? So is there any scope?
Actually, we have a solution which is being developed by one of our R&D department for tracing the blood sample collection from the patient to the lab and then getting back the results. So we have developed one solution, but still it is in pilot mode. So there are multiple solutions which has been approached. So COVID is just 3 months baby in India, right? So there are multiple solutions we have developed. This is one solution which is already in pilot and they are testing it actually. If that is happening, the error factors will be really less and we can get the results quickly actually. So that is one of the solutions which is being developed. Next question, Naren.
Yeah, so that's all from high level. Like
probably you can unmute the audience so we can quickly take the questions.
Yeah, I unmuted audience. Like
yeah,
so they can unmute and ask any final questions.
Yeah, please unmute only when you have a question so that we will not have background noise, please.
Yes, Nitya. Hi. Nitya, yes. So the final question is kind of what are the issues in IoT security? I think we have broadly discussed about it. I think so.
Yeah, we'll capture this question. Yeah, but the high transport level security is one of the challenges in IoT, and of course your encryption, decryption, even if it uses private and public key pair, there are still challenges where some people are able to hack the systems. So these two are the widely considered security threats now, but that's not limited to that actually. So we still have a lot of other factors.
Okay, so is there any difference between IIoT and IoT?
Yeah, IoT is generally for all the segments, right? In the Internet of Things. IIoT is basically industrial IoT. So it's basically for your connected factory and for smart factories and other things, right? So it's specific to that. So there is not much difference. Only thing is how we conceive the architecture is little bit slightly different because it is specific to that particular industry.
Okay, what is BlueGiga?
Sorry?
BlueGiga.
So no, I'm not sure about it. I'll definitely get back to it. So probably I'll also need to learn something. Good question. BlueGiga, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how data science will get effect into education sector?
Education sector. Data science in education sector. Definitely, it's a good question. So I'm just thinking about how it will help it, right? We have seen it in many sectors. So still we have not worked on any project with respect to education field. So yeah, good question. I'm not sure about it. Definitely, I'll get back to it. Yeah, thanks. Data science.
Yeah, I think we are almost 11:50 now. Like, shall we close for questions?
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Padmasree.
Yes.
Yeah. So in India, we are in the development of IoT, sir. Because even China, they have implemented every woman's IoT monitoring scannings there, every bus stop, and every railway station. Correct. So they have implemented like that kind of smart systems everywhere to control the COVID within 4 or 5 months. So we are in the COVID situation almost 3-4 months, right? We have been in this situation 3-4 months, but the development of IoT to control this COVID, in which level we are in?
Babu, you got the question
Hello?
completely. There was
Yeah,
some voice break.
Yeah,
So,
and the question is kind of
No,
in
at
China.
which level we are in?
mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Let me
So
explain.
probably I'll summarize the.
We are in the development of IoT.
So in China, within 4 months, they are able to contain the situation, and they are becoming normal using technology.
Okay.
So how we
Okay.
are going to do that in India?
Maybe I'll answer it in two parts. Whether they control it in China, it's a very big debatable topic. So there is no answer for it. From the media perspective, we see it as an controlled situation, but definitely it is not the case because we do have our colleagues who is working out of China. Still, there are a lot of restrictions, a lot of movement restrictions. People are still inside home, but the situation outside is different. So that's a debatable topic whether it is controlled in China or not. And second, what is the preparedness and how it is being handled in India, right? So I would see it in a different perspective. One is our population and landscape of India. It is equivalent to almost 10-15 countries together, right? Whole Europe is less than our population. If you see the situation, how it is handled in Europe and how it is handled in India, it is completely very astonishing job. It is not so easy, right? With our population, our people, like I, I I cannot say it directly, but we actually break the rules. We don't follow the rules, right? So if you go in any West countries, if they say social distancing, people will definitely follow that. But still, I cannot say that it is a problem with the people here because the infrastructure and other issues are all like it's a really difficult task here. And how IoT can impact this, right? So it's basically IoT is an data collection source where it can help with multiple things. With this IoT, there are already couple of solutions which is being developed. One I said, like how do you monitor the sample collection from the patient and it reaches to the lab. From there it can directly go to the health department. That is one. And other solution is with respect to the number of people getting affected in the particular region and with the particular range. Already there are some models available which government is utilizing. Depending on that, they are deciding on the containment zones. Now even with respect to people movement, there has been a lot of analytical models developed, but it is not given to public. Okay, so in our company itself, we have developed some solutions, but it is not for public use. It is being given to government. Otherwise, it will create panic among a lot of people, right? So there are a lot of technology has been used, which government is internally using it, which is not being exposed to the government. Example, your containment areas. Example, passenger movements, how they are moving. Example, this Arogya Setu, one app is there, right? That is also one of the application where it can track, but we still can debate how efficient it is, but definitely there are some steps which has been taken. So in last 3 months, there are a lot of developments happened with respect to diagnostics, with respect to people movements, with respect to containment zones, with respect to treatment as well. So with the help of technology, it is definitely there. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry, your voice was breaking, so I was not able to capture the question correctly.
Yeah, for the time, like so we are almost 11:50, so maybe we need to wind it up. Maybe we
Sure,
can
Naren.
take up the questions on email. Okay,
Yeah,
please
so
questions in email. We don't want to
Naren,
wait.
I'll just take a minute, Naren. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah, so I hope I was able to answer a few questions. So of course, definitely I am still learning. I am also like your like you have a lot of learning scale in IoT, right? So it's upcoming technology, so a lot of things are being evolved. So I'll definitely come back with answer for certain things. So we actually Naren has already collated all the details. So we'll post detailed questions. Even if I don't have an answer, I'll consult with my colleagues and come back with it. And even if you are not able to post your questions here, please post your questions to the mentioned email ID here, upskill@vgrowtechnology.com. We'll definitely come back on it. And if you want any guidance on solution development as well in IoT space or data space, data science or machine learning area, you can get in touch with us. We will definitely help you out. And I would thank everyone to take out your time on leisure Sunday. Of course, we are in home for quite some time, but still it is a Saturday, Sunday is a leisure days for us, right? So thank you for your time.
Hello.
I would like to.
Hello.
Hello.
Sir, this is Asha, Assistant Professor from Pandian Saraswati Yadav Engineering College. Just I wanted to say a few words of thanks to all the organizers and the participants, sir. Can I proceed, sir?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you.
This is Asha. Hello to all participants. This is Asha from Pandian Saraswati Engineering College. First of all, just to say a word of thanks to all the organizers and the participants of this webinar. First, I would like to thank the management people, that is our chairman, Mr. Malaysia S. Pandian sir, our MD, Mr. Varadarajan sir, and our principal, Dr. Palanichami sir, for having permitted us to organize such a wonderful webinar. Now it's my turn actually to thank the people of VGrow Technology, that is the speaker, Mr. Kiran, Technology Specialist of VGrow Technology, Mr. Narendra Babu. The session was actually a wonderful event, sir. It was very informative for us. It was actually a full-fledged package, that is like the presentation with the PPT, your explanations, the COVID quiz, the doubt clarification session, and the technical quiz towards the end session. And finally, even at the last, we had another doubt clarification session. It was a full informative package. Thank you very much, sir, for that. Then I would also like to thank Dr. K. Premlata ma'am, our HOD, Computer Science Department of PSY Engineering College. She is the person behind, that is right from the initiative of this webinar event to the successful completion. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. And finally, all the participants, actually we have received extraordinary responses from all the participants. Thank you all. Thanks for joining. Once again, thank you, Mr. Narendra Babu, and thank you, Mr. Kiran sir from VGrow Technologies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So I personally would like to thank Premlata ma'am for taking out such an effort to arrange this. So definitely, I would like to thank PSY management also for enabling us to interact with such a wide audience. So thank you everyone for your time. I hope you all should stay inside home, stay safe, and you are the like pioneers of educating the future engineers. So thank you everyone, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.